Good evening. It is now 5 p.m. And welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting and Committee of the Whole. I am Rob Watton, Chair of the committee. Today's meeting is being recorded and will be available on the city's website. Thank you for joining us. Roll call will be the first thing. We have present council members Cotton and Christensen, as well as Mayor Ross and City Administrator Mike Chambliss, City Attorney Dina Burke, as well as our City Clerk online, Dina Dean. With that, we have the agenda before us. Council members, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded by council members Cotton and seconded by council member Christensen. Are there any changes to the agenda? We will accept the agenda as presented. Next, we'll move on to public comments. We're not accepting online comments other than written, which will be shared with the committee. But seeing that there's no one in the council chambers today, I will close the public comments. Next, we'll move on to the minutes. Approval of the minutes dated July 21st, 2025. Do I have a motion? Motion?
I just had one quick
Correction.
proposed correction to the minutes.
Please.
Under public comment, there was a reference to Chris Swedlund, and the spelling for Chris's first name is K-R-I-S. That's my only concern.
All right. Thank you for the correction. Anything else? Hearing none, we will accept the minutes as presented. And that brings us to agenda bills. And the very first one is AB 25-077 interlocal agreement for fire and EMS for Echo Glen Children's Center. And speaking on behalf of this is our fire chief. Good evening.
Good evening. So just to briefly go over this agenda bill, we've had a contract with Echo Glen since 2003 because even though they are in District 27, which is Fall City, as the closest unit, it made sense for them to turn it over to us. So Fall City turned the contract over to us. We've been responding since 2003. Typically, it's a 2-year contract. Our last contract was from, or ILA, I guess would be the better term, was from 2023 to 2025 and ended in July of this year. Originally reached out to them in April to start talking about a new agreement. Just due to scheduling and that, it took us a little bit. I think we had our first meeting in June with the people from Echo Glen and the Department of Children and Youth Services. Some of the concerns that myself and Director Boutte had had to do with increase in call volume, which was in the agenda bill. We had some discussions with them about it. Basically, due to their budget cycle with the state, they weren't really in a position to talk about a huge contract increase, but they were very receptive to some of our concerns about the increase in calls. And so in consultation with the finance director and myself, we decided that maybe a good compromise was a 1-year bridge agreement to give us some more time to speak with them about how we can bring down the call volume and possibly change the formula for how the contract or how the ILA, what the fee is for it. So Director Boutte came up with a formula that included, it's still the same square footage formula, but it did have a little bit of an increase for inflation. And then we committed to, during the year, we're going to meet with them to try to come up with a better alternative, or how to, more importantly for them, get the call volume, and for our department, get the call volume down a little bit. Most of it was an increase in fire alarms. It has gotten a little bit better since the new supervisor took over, but it still is bigger than it has been in the past. So that's how we came to this today, was for a 1-year agreement, slight increase in fees based um, on the cost of living increase. And then we'll look at coming back, like I said, we'll talk over the course of the year and come back at the end of before the next year. It'll line better up with their budget cycle at the state so that we could have some more meaningful discussions about a contract for the future.
Right. Chief Haley, are you ready for some questions?
Absolutely.
All right. I will open it up to the council members. Councilmember Cotton, please.
So is it just AFAs that doubled like that call volume up to 66?
I have the stats right here just so I could, so in 23, we went to 18 aid calls and 17 fire calls, fire alarms mostly. In 24, it went from, excuse me, let me just back up. So in 22, for fire calls, it was 8. In 23, it was 17. And then 24, it went up to 44. Aid calls in 22 were 4. Then it went up to 18 in 23 and 22 and 24. So majority of the increase was in fire alarms. They got a new system up there and it wasn't quite tweaked correctly. So they went through a lot of fire alarms trying to get it set. And then there was a little bit of a change in who was running the facility and some of their policies in regarding when they called 911 and when they didn't. So that was kind of why we had the increase in aid calls. But just to point out for 25, for that first quarter, when we were talking about this, we had only 10 fire calls and 2 aid calls. So it did get better in 25 so far. So it's trending a little bit lower. So that's where we were saying we need to have some more discussions with them. The new superintendent is very receptive about wanting to bring that number down, understands the impact of that number. And so we're going to talk about some strategies to bring it down, maybe similar to what we do for some of the hotel here for the Salish, where we don't necessarily get called right away when there's a call. There's a little bit of a delay put in it. We're going to look at that since they do have 24-hour security. And it's just, again, look at their policies. There just wasn't enough time this year to do it based on, we were kind of tied up with some of the North Bend things. They were tied up with some of their things, so we didn't get to it as soon as we wanted to. Like I said, I reached out in April, but just because of the timing, we weren't able to talk about June. And I think the main issue was just because their budget was already set. Their budget for the state was already set, so they didn't have a lot of flexibility. So that's why we decided on a 1-year agreement made the most sense to give us a little bit more time to talk about it.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Chief. I had a number of the same questions as Kat in connection, Councilmember Cotton, in terms of what the reason was for the increase in calls. I think that the other thing that I'd like to request is that we have an executive session added to council's next meeting to discuss this under public safety, just because I have a couple questions that I'd like to ask of the city attorney with council present.
Okay. Duly noted. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you much. Right. Back to my agenda here.
So are you forwarding though, maybe executive
Okay.
session, but are you also forwarding it to continue on the agenda to consent or
Oh, for this?
safety? Right,
I think it was under public safety, not consent.
but they can put it on consent?
On consent?
It's up to
However,
you.
it's not.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have Agenda Bill AB 25-075, the SCORE Jail ILA Amendment. And Chief Harese.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. So Annually, I'll back up. We contract with Score Jail for, inmate housing along with Issaquah, Sunnyside, and Yakima currently. We also have a contract with King County that we don't utilize a whole lot unless there's some urgent reason to do so due to their cost. In July, can you switch the next slide? So this contract we've had has been going on since 2022 when Mayor Ross signed the agreement with y'all's approval. And then in July, we received an update for the 2026 year on their new rates. They reserve the right to do that in our contract annually. And we're at that point in the year again. You switch to, so 2025 rates are up there on the screen. Booking fees are 80. The general population for non-guaranteed beds, which is what we use, is 213 a day. Mental health beds are 170 and some change, and then acute medical is a little higher at 232. For 2026, and when we worked through this during the budget process, we estimated this into there. I'm sure Drew can go a little further into that. The budget's part of everything, but we kind of knew this was coming. In 2026, and there's a couple extra line items in here should we need them or use them, but the fees for non-guaranteed beds are going to be going up to 223.83, and then mental health beds 244.07, and then the acute medical goes up to 312.68. Booking fee did go up $15 to $95. And then they also have the transport and security fee that's $94 an hour should somebody need, for instance, a hospital transport, things like that. Until we get there, they can send somebody with them. And then they also added the virtual court admin fee at $75 for that.
Sure.
Oh, yes.
Just,
Christensen.
thank you. So just as a question then, if we're talking about a transport and security fee, if they're going to the hospital, would that person have to stay with them during the
They-
entire hospital stay?
They would stay there until we got there.
Okay.
Or we were able to get them released by the judge or any variation of that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cotton.
And right now, SCORE is still the only one that provides the acute medical beds
Yes.
and mental health counseling, right?
Yes.
Of the
They,
facilities.
Issaquah has medical care, but it's not anywhere near the services that are provided by SCORE. And then they are the only ones doing the mental health bed specifically, unless we were to look for another entity like Linwood is starting to use some up there, but they only have so many spaces and everybody's kind of jumped on that from the north end of the county and lower end of Snoqualmie.
Do we use them enough to, I know we do the non-guaranteed beds, but are we using them more than Issaquah where we have the guaranteed beds, or where we would want to consider guaranteed beds because of prices, or do we not use them enough for
I
that?
don't think we're using them enough
Okay.
for those. And if they don't need medical care like on a regular basis, or it's not acute, or it's not mental health, then they're going to Issaquah. And that's where the majority of our bookings go.
Okay.
This is our secondary jail ultimately for anything. And then King County is the last, and then all of our commits are going to Sunnyside and Yakima. So ultimately, those are the new rates. I want to say it's about a 5% increase. Drew can verify any of those numbers and everything, but we kind of estimated that. And then again, every January they have reserved the right in our contracts to increase their rates. And cost of doing business is going up, as we know, across the board.
Any further questions?
No.
Are you okay moving this to the agenda for the next council meeting, regular agenda? Okay, very well. All right. Leave brings us down to items for future discussion. And then after that, we'll move into executive session. Tonight? No. Are we putting the executive session to next week?
Mhm.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I misunderstood. Any other items? Yes. Administrator Chambliss.
A little bit in the future. I'd just like to encourage everybody to go out to Committee Park tomorrow between 4 and 6 p.m. for a National Night Out.
Thank you. I'm planning on being there.
5 to 7 p.m.
5 to 7.
Has it been noticed?
Carrie?
Okay.
Times? 5 to 7, sorry.
The quorum's noticed.
Excellent. Anything else to come before us today? Reports?
No audience.
I know. I know. It feels kind of lonely. All right. Well, with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Councilmember Cotton, seconded by Councilmember Christensen to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All right, we are adjourned at 5:16 p.m.